Hello, today we're going to create a hairbrush. First thing I want to do is bring in some reference images. So I'm going to bring in two images of a brush that I took. One is going to be the top view and the other one is going to be the side view. So one thing I want to do is zoom in and take a look at this image, and I want to go into the settings in Blender and change the opacity so that I can see it as I'm modeling. I want to be able to see my mesh while I'm modeling this thing. So now we bring in the side view and we are going to rotate it along the axis, and we're going to match it up with the top view. Now you see we come in and we lower the opacity, and I change the image to where you always see it in the front, so as we're building the model you'll always still see the reference photo. I'll do the same thing to the top one. And feel free to pause the video if you ever need to stop and see exactly what I'm doing here. Now I'm going to bring in a plane, a flat plane. I'm going to go into edit mode, and what I want to do is I want to start trying to size up this shape to the middle part of the head of the brush. I'm just going to kind of lining it up. And if you notice, you'll see that my reference image is a little off. I know that my object here, or my plane, is correct because it's based off the origin, so it is straight. So what I'm doing is I'm rotating my top view of my reference photo to better align it. It's not going to be perfect, but it doesn't need to be. As long as we're very close, we should be good. And now what I want to do is I'm naming my reference files, and I'm putting them in a reference collection, just so we don't have a big mess over here in the outliner. And I just want to rename everything and keep everything nice and clean and neat in the outliner as we're working. It just makes things much easier as you start building more complex models. And then we'll get back to modeling here in a second. Alright, save the file if you haven't yet, because we don't want to lose anything. I'm going to go back into edit mode, and what I want to do now is I want to start contouring the shape of this brush. So I'm bringing down the last two vertices down to that section there. I'm going to extrude down. I'm going to size it in. I'm going to do another extrusion. I'm just going to try to size these shapes as best I can to the shape of the top view of the brush from the reference photo. And just take your time, just so you can get it pretty close. It'll make a big difference in the end result, as you'll see. I'm going to come down in the end, and you see how it kind of it scales out on the x-axis. I'm just going to scale that thing out. So right now we just have a flat plane, but roughly it's the shape of that brush. I'm looking around just to make sure it looks pretty good. And if you notice, we haven't done the very top yet. We're going to come back in here in a second. I want to look and see how it's matching up to the side. And if you notice here, my reference image of the side view is larger. So I want to come back in here and kind of scale that down a little bit. Get it, just like I said, just get it close. I'm going to go ahead and extrude the model down, and then I'll go back in there, and then I'll scale down this image. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact, but just get it as close as you can. What we want to do is capture the shape and the lines of the model. Another thing I want to do, because I see places where the topology is going to change a little bit, is I want to come in here and make some loop cuts, because we're going to need to bend this thing in certain places to get that shape in the handle where it kind of curves up. And if you look at the bottom or the back side of the brush where it kind of bows downward, we're going to need to pull some edges down from these loop cuts to kind of mimic that shape. So you'll see that we're going to do that here. So let's just bring this up here on the handle. I want to taper that back part in, because when we run division surface modifier, we're going to let it do most of the work. So most of the curvature, we're going to let that modifier like curve everything for us. But we just want to guide where it needs to be straight and where it needs to have structure, as we did in the lamp tutorial. So I'm just kind of playing with it, just kind of getting things pretty close. Like I said, take your time. It's going to make a big difference in the end in terms of it looking like the actual thing you're trying to model. Just moving these edges up just a hair, or moving them down wherever needed. Okay. So really all I'm doing right now is just like tweaking. I'm just tweaking some things. Okay, and that's pretty close. It doesn't have to be perfect because, like I was saying earlier, the subdivision surface modifier is going to do most of the heavy lifting for us. I just want to get the basic building block shape of this thing. That's what we're kind of focused on now. Okay, let's give it a look. Turn the reference off so I can actually see the model thus far by itself, and for now it's looking pretty good. Alright, let's go ahead and start looking at tackling this top portion here. So I'm going to go into face mode. I'm going to select the face there at the front, and one thing I want to do is bring it up on the y-axis. Notice I did not extrude it. I'm dragging it up. Okay, now I want to go to edge select mode, and I want to select those two edges on the corners. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring them down just to roughly get that shape. And for the third time, the subdivision modifier will curve those edges for us. It won't look so edgy like it's looking now. Okay, I think that's pretty good. We're going to do a test, apply Control 2 for the subdivision surface modifier. And that, for the most part, you can see the curvature I was talking about. Now, it's not as structured on the edges, but we'll deal with that here in a second. But we got the curvature we're looking for. Alright, so now I'm going to go into edge select mode, and I'm going to select these edges that sort of defines the structure, the shape of this thing. And one thing I want to do is, once I select all of these edges that I'm trying to make an adjustment to, I'm going to run a bevel by hitting Control B. And what that's going to do is that bevel is going to tell Blender to make those edges a little bit more rigid. I can adjust how rigid by the amount of bevel I apply to it, and you'll see when we come back in and we apply the subdivision surface modifier on it again, that the shape of the brush will have more structure. And notice I didn't apply a bevel to every shape, because if you apply the bevel to the shape, it will affect the modifier's ability to do the curvature. See, now the edges, or if you could say the walls of this brush handle, look correct now. Now I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to add some edge loops just to kind of help with our geometry. You don't have to get crazy with it, just, you know, a little bit of edge curves here. And what you try to do is you try to make sure that the squares that are produced are fairly square shaped. And then I'll do one here on the edge right here. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right, so the next thing to tackle is going to be, how do we make the bristles? So the first thing I want to do is I want to select these faces here at the, I guess this would be considered the bottom of the brush where the bristles are going to pop up. And I want to select all of these faces in here. And I want to hit Shift D and make a copy. And then I want to hit P to separate it as its own object. And if you see, we come down here, we're going to rename it so we know it's the bristles. And if you notice, the subdivision modifier is still applied to it. I also want to come in here and do an inset, just so that when we make changes, if we happen to make changes to it later on to the topology, that it's not gonna affect the very edge of it. So the way you handle this in Blender is you want to create a particle system, but instead of using the particles, the emitters there, you want to use a hair. So we're going to use hair, and if you notice, they're pointing downward. The way you get around this is you basically take that selection that we made and just flip it by 180 degrees on the y-axis, and now the hair emitter is pointing upward. So one thing I want to do is go into hair settings. I want to make the hair length much smaller, and feel free to pause the video, zoom in, and copy my settings if you like. I turn the reference back on just to get the height of the hair, which will be bristles, relatively the same as the photo. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do the children interpolation setting here. We don't need a ton of hairs to populate here because we're doing brush bristles, and if we have too many, it will affect our ability to change the clumping method here to make it look like a bunch of bristles are coming out of like a particular center point, like you're seeing in the video now. The same kind of effect can be used to make a toothbrush as well. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And just feel free to come in here and, like I said, pause the video if you need to and copy these settings. Or if you want to change it, by all means change it. My purpose here is just to kind of show you guys how to solve this problem and create this thing. So you'll notice that one of the settings I'm using here is I'm adding a little bit of randomness to the bristles. Just makes it look a little bit more realistic. Not every bristle is going to be perfectly straight and perfectly uniform. In the real world, things are like very random. Some things are very imperfect. So this is what that setting is doing. And if you notice, the bristles look more real now. And I'm just kind of playing with some settings, just tweaking some things and make it look more like my reference photo. And now I want to parent that selection back to the original brush model that we made, so that when we move one, then the selection or the bristles will move as well. Now I notice that the edge here of the bristles is right on the edge of the brush. So all I'm doing now is just sizing it down, and then I want to apply the scale. So now we're pretty much done modeling our brush. So let's go ahead and throw some materials on it really quick here in a second. We'll save the file. Give it a quick look. It looks pretty good. So now I want to go into look dev mode, which is essentially Eevee, and I want to apply a wood texture to this brush handle. So what you see on the screen now is a free plugin called Blender Kit. Right now I've got the free plan. I have had the paid plan before. It's actually pretty awesome. Saves you a lot of time. I found a texture, just applied it. It's literally drag and drop or point and click. The bristles, however, I'm going to just manually make a shader for those because they're black and they're kind of like plastic, have a little bit of shine to them. So I'm just going to eyeball it, give it a name, start making the color change and change the roughness. Just drag the roughness down a little bit, just so when the light hits it, it looks more like plastic. And I'm just double checking in my emitter settings that that particular material is the one that is selected for the bristles.